Welcome to the Exploring Unschooling podcast. For countless parents, the journey to unschooling has redefined childhood and transformed their family relationships. Are you curious? Together, let's explore what living and learning looks like without school. Hello, explorers. I'm Pamela Riccia, and this is episode number 248 of the podcast. It's the 20th of October, 2020, as I record this intro. Now, this week, I've put together another compilation episode. They are so worth the extra time it takes to put them together because hearing these clips side by side brings a whole new life to them. This episode is a collection of responses to the question, what is your favorite thing about the flow of your unschooling days? If you're newer to unschooling, these can be a great reminder of where you're heading. And if you're more experienced, they can be a great reminder of why you chose unschooling for your family. Either way, I suspect you'll find them super inspiring, helping you take a deep breath and release whatever is preoccupying you so you can get back into the moment and connect with your kids. Truly, life is a collection of these small, everyday moments of connection. That's where our trust and respect for each other grows. As a personal update this week, my project to figure out better internet for recording podcast calls is in the home stretch. Hopefully. There are just a couple of hurdles left, so fingers crossed. Not that I'm expecting perfect, but more reliable would be amazing at this point. Booking podcast calls through into the new year has been going pretty smoothly. I'm really looking forward to having a bunch of interesting and fun conversations over the next few weeks. That'll fill my unschooling well, and I know I'll be excited to share them with you guys to keep you inspired and engaged on your unschooling journey. Lissy's coming home for the holidays on December 12th, so I hope to be mostly organized and done by then. I'll still have my part-time evening job, and of course, I'll continue to hang out in the Living Joyfully network, but I hope to have my days mostly free for the rest of the month to have fun at home with everyone. There are so many things I want to play and do, including having large swaths of time and space to just hang out and be. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has chosen to support the podcast through Patreon. I deeply appreciate all my patrons. Your generous support helps pay for the hosting and transcription, as well as my time spent creating new episodes each week. It's instrumental in keeping the growing podcast archive freely available to anyone who's curious and wants to explore the fascinating world of unschooling. If you'd like to join my community of patrons and scoop up some great rewards along the way, check out the Exploring Unschooling page at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/exploring unschooling. And now let's dive into this fun compilation. Hi, everyone. This has been such a fun compilation episode to put together, gathering a collection of responses to the question, what is your favorite thing about the flow of your unschooling days? The answers give us both a wonderful snapshot of the uniqueness of each unschooling family and a clear look at the lovely foundational threads of unschooling that weave through our days, like the time and space to be, cultivating rich relationships with our children, and the focus on joy. To get us started, let's hear from Susan Bhadury, an unschooling mom with two children, ages 5 and 9, living in Australia. So what is your favorite thing about your unschooling lives right now?
I won't say relationships and the connection because I think that's really a given because when you spend so much time with the little ones. What I really like is kiddos really get to know who they truly are as people. Like I think I mentioned earlier on, Nishika, I love that she can go into her own world, when we are out as well. She's just far away in some world and she can actually be in that world. And if she was schooled, she would be constantly, that would be disruptive.
Yeah.
So I love that about her. The other thing I love is the gift of time. We have late nights and we don't get up very early. So I love our morning sniggles, as Krishna would say. Yeah. I love our cuddles at night. I love that I get to see the joy and the smile on the face when they discover something new or funny or interesting. And something that I didn't mention, when Krishna actually wants your attention, and he wants you to see something, he will hold your face, and so that your eyes can't get distracted. So you just say, you can't move, you can't focus, so you just hold your face. And it's so cute and funny when he does that. And the other thing I think I want to mention is, conventional thinking, tells you need to get up bright and early, and because that's the only time when you have energy. I have found that both my kiddos take a long time for their energies to pick up, even when they get up later on during the day. They're the most energetic before bed. They love to run around actually before bed. So that's at like 11:30 at night or 10 o'clock at night. That's when they have the most energy. This does not mean it takes them time to wind down. So when they're ready for bed, they're ready for bed. They just sleep. They don't struggle to sleep. They sleep quite peacefully. And something, again, conventional advice was to read a book before bed, dim lights, and slowly wind down to sleep. And I don't think that works for everyone. So I think for my kiddos, and I'm sure there are lots of people out there, that, expending some energy before bed actually helps with winding down as well. The other thing, what I love is, that, I normally wake up before these two, and I love, when they wake up, I'm happy that they are up, and, they, how they shine. Krishna has a big smile on his face, and he comes and he runs and gives me a cuddle. With Nishika, I go, normally she calls out to me when she's up, so I go to the bed, give her a hug, cuddle her. So we spend about, depending on how she's feeling, 10, 15, 20 minutes of just cuddling and maybe chatting. And I think this reminded me of you and Lissy, Pam, when you mentioned in one of your episodes where, you guys used to spend a lot of time, when she would get up with coffee or having something to drink, right?
Yeah. That just when you were telling that story, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that time with Lissy. Yeah, she would, let me know that she was awake, and I would bring back a coffee, and then we would just sit in her bed from like 20 minutes to an hour some mornings, listening to music, chatting, just, sitting quietly together. It was really beautiful. And even like that was the part of the journey, and the focusing on that inner compass, right? And how important and valuable that time is, because sometimes I was sitting there, 20 minutes in, it's like, oh, I feel like I should, that's always a good clue. I should be getting up and doing this, or I should be doing that. But to realize, no, this is valuable and it's worth that time. Well, that would let me just breathe through those couple of minutes, like, because it's not bad, it's not wrong. It's, a moment to think. It's like to remember and recommit to why this is important. And, I treasure those memories. Like, it was months and months that we did that.
And you don't get that, because if they was going to school now, we would be rushing. It's always rush. And we just don't get that time, to spend with them. And, I love how, Nishika, she's not always very vocally expressive, but ever since we've become, I think the last year or 2 years, we've become really, very close. So she'll randomly tell me, Mama, I love you. Mama, you're the best. Mama, I really love you. Just randomly, she's watching something and she'll say, Mama, I love you. So it's really, I would miss all of that. And, the other thing, because of hubby's business, the travel, we get to be with him. We get to be together as a family, rather than, worrying about, okay, the kids have to go to school. We have to take permission from the school to actually travel. Which is, I want to be with my family. I need to take permission from you. so
that's another great point, right?
And something, with unschooling, and what I've realized, it has very little to not going to school. And that's actually a very small part in our unschooling life. So yes, it's unschooling, but it's so much that we're doing that not going to school is actually a very small part of what and that's what I love.
I love that insight. As we get more experienced with unschooling, our days move further and further away from even the idea of school, and it becomes a lifestyle, living and learning as if school doesn't exist. A few months later, I had a wonderful conversation with Susan's husband, Roop, and I thought it would be great to hear his answer to the same question alongside Susan's. Here's what he shared. So the next question, beautifully, what's your favorite thing about the flow of your unschooling days right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, Pam. I mean, I was sort of mulling over that earlier today, and there's so many things that I love about our unschooling journey. Like it's actually hard to pick. I mean, the obvious one is the gift of time, the flexibility and the ability to. I mean, it sort of goes together with my entrepreneurial journey, actually, because it allows. I mean, because I have more flexible work hours. And because my kids are around, I can take some time off in the middle of the day and we can go Pokemon hunting.
Yeah.
And we can come back and I can get back into work. And I would not give that up for anything. Like, I find the ability to have the best way to describe it is that our structure is the lack of it. Yes. And that is magic to me, because it allows me to dip into their life when I'm able to, and then dip in and dip out because of my work as well. But allows me that flexibility to dip in and dip out, and they also know that they're around. Like, I don't have a door to my study. Like, there is no door, so I don't have a dynamic in the house where if I'm in the study, no one's allowed to come into the study because, the door's locked. No. Kids understand. Kids will come in. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a call and Krishna will come in and say hi. And why not? And so I just love that kind of flexibility. So time and flexibility is, I think, the best gifts of this journey.
I love that. An abundance of time and the flexibility to use it as we choose are fundamental to unschooling. And that paradigm shift from the conventional mantra to always be productive, to always be busy or else we're being lazy, to seeing the immense value in having time to ponder the possibilities, to listen to our inner voice and to make choices. It's priceless. Now, let's hear from Fiona Monday, an unschooling mom in New Zealand with a 5-year-old child. I would be curious to know, what is your favorite thing about the flow of your unschooling days right now? Maybe not literally, right? I know
not literally
right now on lockdown for a lot of us, right?
Yeah. I suppose it can still apply, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I've heard you talk a lot about joy,
mm-hmm.
and I've had joy in my life. I know what joy is, but actually I've experienced what I would call real joy now, just lately, following Ollie on his tangents and his passion, and so his transforming passion, which is the thread through everything, seems to be the thread through everything. He found a video on YouTube of some guy loaded a video up of little Burger King toys, Happy Meal. No, I think it was Burger King, little toys, and they were transformed from robots into letters, and he had the whole alphabet, and the whole video is just him going through A and talking step by step, and I'm laughing now because it's just so amazing that Ollie found this video of a transforming alphabet of this guy taking him through. Ollie's learning his alphabet and was completely into it, and he's never shown any interest in the alphabet song, like singing the alphabet, but this thing, because it was transforming, and I watched the whole video with him. It went on for quite a while.
Yeah.
I just got so much joy. Like, I can feel it in my body now. It's like watching him just get a kick out of this guy and his alphabet transformers. Like, I would never have picked that up. That I would have enjoyed that, but I did, because he was so into it. And there seems to be more and more examples of that happening now. I think it's the layers peeling back, and now I understand what you mean about the joy, and so that's the cool thing that I'm discovering at the moment, is there's this real joy, and real joy for me too. Like, I'm getting real joy out of rock painting, and they're real basic, they're super basic things I'm painting, but I'm really enjoying them because I can't say the words. I can only describe this.
I know I know exactly what you mean. And I remember that shift from so many years ago, which is, that's why my website is Living Joyfully.
Yeah.
Right? Because for me, that was the most profound shift to, and still now trying to imagine what it was, is it a layer of judgment that we're peeling away, that we can see the joy in the most mundane little things?
Because I totally would have judged that video beforehand. Like, who is this guy?
And look at all those toys.
This video's how long? So judgment definitely for me in that video.
Yeah.
But having no judgment,
Right, and judgment on ourselves with the painting, but it feels like we all of a sudden more clearly see everything, right? For ourselves, like that painting, the rocks, the walk, the finding the rock, it's like all of a sudden we're allowing ourselves to more, I don't know if authentically is the right word, but engage in that moment, just surrender and be in that moment, like a child, right? They're right in that moment and having fun in that moment. And because that judgment piece is a step out of the moment, right? Because we're thinking about the moment through the eyes of good, bad, right, wrong, right?
Yeah.
So being able to really sink and engage in the moment, we see so much of that joy, right?
Yeah.
And then even when things are going wrong, it's not like, oh, this is fun, things are not going our way. But deeper, it's that trust too, that will move through those moments, and you gain that through experience, through having done it before. Even if you can't see where you're going to end up, you're going to end up somewhere reasonable, right?
That happened yesterday. We had a terrible day yesterday. Both Matt and I were feeling super down about just the situation of being in lockdown. We were all rubbing each other the wrong way, and there seemed to be no saving it. But at the end of the day, Ollie just decided to dress up. He came out into the lounge in different dress-ups, and it was hilarious. And we found joy at the very last part of our day. And it was just, we were all laughing, and we were just, the whole mood lifted. And he just cracked the code on that one of he was enjoying the dress-up, and he enjoyed our reactions to him walking out in different costumes. And it was turn the day around from something terrible. That is such a great example, right? And I think that's part of what we've learned as we've peeled back those layers, is being open for those moments. Even when we're down and things, we can't see where they're going positively, but being open for those small shifts. Right? To see and recognize those. And it's like, it wasn't, Ollie, it's almost time for bed. Please don't start pulling out a bunch of different clothes or whatever it was that he was changing into. Right? Trying to not keep that negative lens on things, like being more open to seeing those moments, like the joy in all the tiny little things, even if it's, a change of clothes or a smile about a video or whatever, and recognizing those, because so often we're
certainly at the beginning, we're blind to those.
Oh, yeah.
I love that story. Being open to moments when we can shift back to joy. And I love how Fiona distinguished it as real joy, joy that she can feel in her body over the most seemingly mundane things. It's beautiful. And now let's hear from Tara McGovern Dutcher. She and her family live in Iowa in the U.S., and they have 2 children, ages 12 and 14. I would love to hear what your favorite thing is about your unschooling lives right now.
Yes, thank you. And this again was another question that I brought to my team and was really interested in the results. To answer for my own self, it's always been about having a lot of margins in our lives where we can do with as we need to. And I didn't even really reflect on my own neurodiversity, but anxiety is something that I've lived with in my life. It's something that I've learned to navigate. And for me, margins are a huge part of how I navigate my life happily, is when I'm not trying to impose a lot of extra structure on myself. I'm just a lot more peaceful and more attuned. That's a big word for me as a musician and also as a parent, attunement. I'm more attuned to myself with those margins. And so Liam and Atticus had sort of similar things that they answered. I said, what is your favorite thing about unschooling? I heard a lot about freedom in their time, but also being encouraged to explore what they're interested in. And then when I asked Joe, his response was really interesting. And it was about, he feels like because we've worked really hard to cultivate like honesty in our relationships with each other, that our relationships with our children are more mentor relationships than parental relationships. We talked about how some of the mentors that we've had in our lives, how you learn from their experience, but they're not necessarily telling you who you are or who you are expected to be. And so I thought that was really interesting, that for him it was about our relationships with our children having that flavor to them, less authoritative and more just sharing our experience and helping our kids to move through their own experiences, using us as resources, but not necessarily using us as advice givers or an expectation that things go a particular way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love that you asked everybody.
Yeah, it was so fun to find out.
It was so cool to hear the different perspectives, how they were both unique to the person and how beautifully they weave together without getting knotted up. Next, let's hear from Nikki Zavitz. Nikki's family unschools in Ontario, Canada, and they have 3 children, ages 10, 8, and 6. I would love to know, what is your favorite thing about your unschooling lives right now?
Oh my goodness, that's hard.
Easy question, right?
I think, I absolutely love the richness and the deepness of our relationship. You know, I know them so well, but I'm learning more and more about them every day. Them for me as well. And also just learning alongside them. Like, oh, it's so amazing how much we're learning together. And we're not even seeking learning. Like, it's just unraveling before us, you know, with my passions and my thirst for learning. And they get stuff from what I'm learning, and I get stuff from what they're learning, and we're stirring for each other. It's just such a beautiful dance. Yeah. It's so great. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. It's just the richness of your lives as you're living together. And yeah, you get to that point where learning just weaves into your days without any thought per se, because, without any intention, maybe. But the intention is to do what you enjoy doing, right? To follow your passion, see what comes up, and boom, And I love when you get to that point too, where they're bringing stuff that they think you'll be interested in. You're bringing stuff to them. Everybody's just kind of living together joyfully, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful life. It really is. With all the messiness of it too. It's just quite wonderful.
The richness and deepness of our relationships with our children. The beautiful dance of living and learning side by side, unfolding in all its joy and messiness. I love it. Now let's hear from Dola Dasgupta. Dola lives in Pune, India, with her 2 children, ages 18 and 14. What is your favorite thing about your unschooling days right now?
The favorite thing right now is that my children are far more independent than they were at one time. So they're able to make their own snacks. They can take care of their meals at times, and they're pretty much, especially my older one is moving around on her own. I don't have to do the picking and dropping and driving them around. So that gives me a lot more time for myself. So that's something that is good for me. But what is really interesting about where we are as a family right now is watching my daughter, because she turned 18 in November, and she's just like, wanting to explore so much. And she's like really pushing herself there and trying out different things, going out there, connecting with people. And this is from someone who for the longest time felt she was shy, and that she was that she had social anxiety, and that meeting people was difficult for her. First, to watch someone like her, like that, to be really, exploring, being out there and being on several social network groups and things like that. And even, doing all the inquiries that she needs to do for her own, for the courses that she needs to take. So I think to see that is fascinating for me, because I think what really mattered was that I was present, and she was also present to herself, and I was present to her in whatever phase that she went through.
Mm-hmm.
Without wanting to turn the tables, or without wanting to make it different, or it's just accepting that that's how it was. Now it's this way, and we don't know what it will be next. So I think for me to watch my daughter really, spreading herself out there is something fascinating for me. And my son, finding that when he likes something a lot, how he finds the time for it, like the discipline that he is instilling in himself. To watch that is fascinating. And there is so much more. What fascinates me about my son now is that he stands there in his power and said, "No, Mom, I don't think you're right." And he so calmly explains his point of view. Sometimes when I'm losing it, but he's not. Like, he's like talking like as if he's on some diplomatic mission. With a lot of diplomacy, a lot of calm. So that kind of really fascinates me. And I think it was a different thing when they were younger, and now that they're all kind of growing up, it's a completely different journey, because we are emotionally also on a different level of connecting.
Yeah.
even with my daughter, because she's like 18 and she's exploring so many things, her emotions and relationships. I find it so much more fascinating, because I am talking to her like another woman, and that's really fascinating for me. That yes, there is the mother and daughter, but there's also this thing about a younger woman and an older woman, and we are kind of bonding and about stuff, and that's like interesting.
Yeah. I love they're just fascinating as people, as human beings.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Our kids. Yeah. I love that word fascinating, because it's so true. It's just so curious and interesting to see, what the choices that they're making in their lives, and how valuable it is to let them go at their own pace. Like you talked about, their own phases, rather than us worrying or trying to put some sort of timetable on it. They get the places they want to go when they get there. Right. And it's always valuable to them where they are. They're there for their own reasons. Right. So it's just so fun to see how they blossom and in what directions. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that other piece that you talked about, the difference as they get older, because when they're younger, it's a lot more about like doing things. It's a lot more hands-on, I think, a lot more getting them places, doing things, sharing facts, looking things up, it's a lot of that. Whereas they get older, there is a much more emotional aspect. Now they're more exploring the kind of person they want to be, because they already know how to learn and figure out the things they want to learn, right? The facts, they've kind of taken over. So now our conversations start to morph into more philosophical takes, emotional takes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's true. That's how it is for us too.
It's so interesting to hear from an unschooling parent with older children and how things shift. How fun it is to watch them in action as they explore more and more of their world. I love Dola's perspective. And now let's hear from Kinsey Norris. Kinsey's family lives in the U.S., in Texas, and they are unschooling with 2 children, ages 8 and 5, at the time of our conversation. Okay, last question. I would love to hear your favorite thing right now about the flow of your unschooling days. Now that you're all healthy?
Yes. Things are feeling better now. No, there's so many things, So I asked Amy Quay this question, like, what's your favorite thing about kind of just our life every day? And she said, hanging out, and I loved that. Like, she's so right. We can simply hang out. And, I think a really cool byproduct of that to me is the discovery that happens, like discovering new interests, discovering new bits of information about places and people or things or, whatever, discovering things about each other and about myself. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I could have ever expected or imagined how much more like living like this would give us, aside from like, I don't know, the learning or, I don't know. It's just really exciting and fun. All of those discovery pieces are really exciting and fun to me. And I just love every minute. And I just, I'm really excited to keep on going to see what's going to happen next. I don't know. I'm just really filled with gratitude to be able to live this way with my family.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Kinsey. And I love that hanging out answer. It's just that space to be together.
Yes, to be, just being,
Yeah. Kinsey's perspective is lovely. feeling so grateful to be able to hang out together with her family. It kind of hits the unschooling nail on the head, doesn't it? And now let's hear from Liza Swail. Liza and her family live in Canada, though her husband is originally from New Zealand. They have 2 kids, ages 13 and 8. So what is your favorite thing about unschooling just nowadays?
Nowadays, I have so many moments because we're finally at a place in our life, particularly now. I mean, the farm's been up and running for its lifetime, so almost 9 years, 9 seasons now. So I marvel almost every day at making choices in the path that brought us here and being so grateful for being able to have this time. And I think, and it's happened, it's more so like right now, because right now we're at a really, it's really all coming into place. So it's just such a wonderful time for us. So I think for me, my favorite thing is just really living. Is every day we wake up and we don't know what the day's going to bring. We really honestly don't. I mean, farming is so flexible and organic unto itself that it suits a beautiful unschooling life because you're just going with the moment, and within the moment you can live and follow your dreams and passions, and it allows for it. So right now it's really, the flow is really fantastic and exciting, and exactly what we kind of had envisioned when we went out on this journey. And it's not constant. I mean, there's always ebbs and flows, but that's part of the journey too, because even in those moments of conflict and things, we're connecting on a level that so many other people don't necessarily have that opportunity. And I'm grateful for it. And I don't let it go past without that gratitude now because of the choices we've made. And I think that's exciting. Because it's taken me a bit to get to that point, where you're like, no, this is in the moment really working and really great and really right. So that's exciting for us right now. On a practical level, I'm excited winter's here. We're like, winter's coming because we're done summer, so we're in fall. Winter usually means travel for us. And we're heading back to New Zealand after 7 years, so we're kind of excited for that. And a lot of our days and times have been spent planning that because we have about a month to play with, and we have lots of things we want to do. So we're researching and talking about things and people we want to see. So that's been very much our focus now that the season's winding down. Yeah. And I'm excited. I'm always excited for where we're going. Part of my whole journey and even having kids it was always excitement to see who they are. Who are they turning into and rolling into and growing into? And I think I'm excited for that. That's also one of my favorite things. And the kids, the age they are right now, and any age really, it's always just so exciting.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love the idea of seasons and the flow and discovering who your kids are, right? It's so fun. And it's fun to think about how, we're really focused on, the connection and engagement and, having fun with them. Yet, as we were talking about before, it's not about the control, that you can be so connected and spending time with them without needing to direct them anywhere, that it's still a discovery, right? That excitement of discovery to see, what they're interested in, where that might go, what corners that might turn, what they're learning about themselves. It's not all, happy-go-lucky kind of thing, right? There's always challenges and things coming up, always. But I guess I go back to that undercurrent of joy and excitement just because we're living.
Right. And I also think those moments of, conflict are part of living. I mean, really, it's the human experience, right? Yeah. And it's through those moments that we grow and learn so much and connect at an even deeper level. So I embrace those moments too. And even in myself, I'm certainly not perfect in any sense of the word, and control and doubt and all these things come into play. But if I'm able to reflect, and kind of, dissect and see where that plays in with everybody and be open and honest, then we can just move along and keep that flow going, right?
That's right. That's right. Because we're growing into who we want to be. And I mean, that whole thing of taking, it's hard taking those challenging moments and saying that's okay. Right.
Yeah.
And then doing the work to work through them. And, exactly why is that feeling hard for me, to understand that, because then we can bring that to the conversation. Right. And then they can help us and the flow. Yeah, I know.
I'm just thinking
the same words over because it's awesome.
Well, I want to say as well, because I think it's important. Flow is such an important word, and it's something that you and Anna brought up to me, and it's the idea of, it's not about balance, right? It's about flow. Balance is unstable, and it's hard to keep balanced, and there's a lot of work and control that's required for this. But once you accept flow in your life, that those moments are not something that make you off balance, they just help the flow move forward. It's like a progression. So for me, it was a big deal when I realized it's not about balancing and making, tilting something in a different direction. It's really about accepting and allowing, right? And that for me was a big shift in mindset in terms of flow of life and accepting moments where there is conflict or there is, unsettling, and to pivot back to the joy and, to embrace the moments. It's about accepting that flow.
I love how Liza talked about flow and how it's so much more helpful as a metaphor for living than balance, and thinking in seasons. Life outside of school and curriculum is so much more fluid and twisty, with seasons of intense deep dives and other extended times of quiet contemplation that can look like mostly doing nothing from the outside, but they are all valuable. Next up, we hear from Martha Delmore. Martha's children were ages 4 and 7 at the time of our call, and they live in Colorado in the United States. What is your favorite thing about your unschooling days right now?
I can't even think of a favorite. It's summertime right now, so we're playing a lot. It's been so fun to, it's just so fun to play. I feel like our days are filled with play, and I felt like I spent so many years not having that. And so I think my favorite part of our days is that we get to wake up and play. We play with the horses, we play with the tadpoles, we play at the trampoline park or the parkour park, or I think both of my kids have a really fun sense of humor, and so there's banter that way. I love not having pressure to be places that we don't want to be, or struggle in the mornings to get somewhere that we don't want to get. And so I think just the gift of living a life that is just filled with like joy is so much fun. And I don't know how we could have done it with a different path for us. So yeah, I think just the freedom to play.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned like your kids' humor and stuff like that. That is the cool piece, isn't it? That the whole kids are people too, but kids are fun to hang out with.
Yes.
Right?
I enjoy them.
Yeah.
I really enjoy them as people. We go on vacation together. We're lucky to get to do that. And I don't wish that they could be somewhere else. I think my life is enriched by being with them. And that's I'm glad, because they're with me for at least 18 years and maybe longer. We'll see, as long as they want to be. So I'm glad that I enjoy them. Glad that I'm not wishing the time away.
Yeah.
Maybe specific moments, but in general, I love to be.
Yes. I mean, there's always those moments that aren't fun per se, but can you imagine having to go through those moments with a different kind of relationship? I mean, how much harder still those could be, right? Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love how, you talked about the relationship with them and developing that connection. And that is just going to take you right through your whole lives together. And I think that's one of the most important shifts, because, you know, conventionally, and so often people will say, you know, I couldn't hang out with my kids that much. But when, like you said, when you take that pressure off of having to follow this schedule of things that nobody is particularly interested in doing, but we have to do, when you take that layer out, we are all different people, aren't we? Like, not just the kids are different. We are different people as parents too. And that we can live together, like feel like we're all people living together with our different levels of experience and knowledge about the world and everything. It's not about parents becoming children,
yes,
you know, throwing out who we are. Right. It's literally all of us living together as human beings, right?
Yeah, well, and I think that was part of the transition into, I guess, maybe attachment parenting or peaceful parenting or whatever the terminology would be, is that it's not like anarchy or some crazy, you know, circus. Yeah. Well, it sometimes feels like a circus in like the best ways, maybe, but it's not. I mean, I think that's where the relationship piece comes in. Like, I would say it's the relationships that contribute to the peace in our home. It's not like the lack of discipline or punishment that contributes to like this crazy, wild, anarchist situation that we have. I think the relationships contribute to the peace. And part of that relationship is figuring out like how much I have to give and when I need to like pull back and refuel for a few minutes or have a breather or do some self-care in the way that I'm talking to myself. Or, I mean, all of that is a dance. And I think if I'm only ever pouring out, I will eventually have nothing else to give and then it won't work. And so part of that relationship with them has also been kind of healing myself and figuring out, who I am, so that in the house we can all just live a life that's filled with joy. And I just think the idea of that we're all different, unique individuals, like living together and developing this beautiful relationship, I think it's contributed to this style of life working well for us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love that piece you talked about ourselves too. I mean, I know authentic is another word that gets bandied around a lot, but when we are our authentic or real selves with our kids, without putting any pressure on them or anything to meet our needs, that's not what it's about. Not trying to manipulate them to do things to make us feel better. You know, it is not what we're talking about. But you were talking like self-taught, like understand what that level of authentic engagement with our kids means is so much more self-awareness for us, right? Yeah. We need to understand ourselves so that we can understand where we are, you know, how empty our well is at this moment, you know, and not unrealistically say yes to taking on things that would just completely deplete us.
Completely.
But having that conversation, you know what, I am way too tired to do that today, but can we do that in the morning? Because I know I'll be ready for it. Just having those kinds of conversations with them, right? That's what I mean when I talk about living authentically. And that's where you're really living together and they're learning about understanding other people's feelings, other people's where they are in that moment. You know, so it's not about unthinkingly. That's where your anarchy comes in, when I got to say yes all the time, right? And you're depleting yourself and things are just going crazy because you've got nothing left to be engaged enough with them so that they don't go over the edge, you know, and then you're over the edge and there's your anarchy, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think living that way, it does, like you said, it gives them an awareness of other people's needs and just where those lines might be. But it also gives them permission, I think, to be able to say, I can't do this right now in relationships down the future. And I also, my kids will, which I love about them, when I get a bit short or can be a bit snarky when I'm tired or overwhelmed, both of my kids will like put their hands on their hips and be like, Mom, I don't like when you talk to me like that. And I'm so glad that they know, like they can say, I don't like to be treated this way. And typically it makes me bust out laughing and kind of brings me back to the present moment. But I think all of that just models like healthy human relationships.
I love that their days are filled with fun and play, the joy of unschooling with young kids, but not in a martyrly way, rather being ourselves in relationship with these young people that we love. And now let's hear from Teresa Hess. They live in Washington State in the U.S. They also live in a co-housing community and have 3 children, ages 12, 8, and 3 when we spoke. What is your favorite thing about your unschooling days right now?
Oh, that was a hard question because I just I don't know. I just love our lifestyle so much. You know, it's like everything that we've talked about in this conversation so far is what I love about it. I just love having the space and the time to be together and get to know ourselves and each other. It's just so precious. Like, what else could be more important than that? I can't think of anything. You know, it's back to the relationships and the connecting again. It's just, it's brilliant. I don't know. We're so lucky, you know, it's such a privilege and a luxury to be able to live that way. And I'm just so happy that, that we've encountered this lifestyle. I'm so thankful for the internet. Like, I never would have gotten here without that. Like, I wouldn't have known what to do if I hadn't found Jan Hunt's website, really, or to have people that are further down the path saying, it's okay. Like, you can be kind and generous with your kids and they will be wonderful human beings, because so many people parent from that place of, well, in order to make them wonderful human beings, I have to make them do X, Y, and Z that they don't want to do right now. And that doesn't feel right to me at all, but it's so wonderful to have the resources of people who are more experienced spelling that out for us. So yeah, my favorite part of our unschooling days is just being together, just getting to know myself, just loving my children so much and having this time together. So many people talk about the years going so fast, or, you know, like looking at an old picture when their kid was 2 and now their kid's 10 and where did the time go? I don't really have that feeling about things, and not to say I won't at some point, but I feel like we're really living our lives together. They're not just flashing by. Like, we're not busy. We're just, you know, here together doing what we love. We're not too stressed out, except if we're making an addition on the home right now. Like, you know, or the natural stresses of life come up, of course, inevitably. And like I say, sibling tensions, or, you know, figuring out what to make for dinner, things like that. But just that we can just be together. I mean, how many people, what are those articles like, the top 10 things people on their deathbed say about, you know, it's like, oh, I wish I would have worked less and spent more time with my family. I wish I had prioritized relationships, and I wish I had done less of what other people thought I should do and done more of what I wanted to do. And I'm just like so grateful that we're in that from day one as a family. Not that we have it down perfectly, not that we don't struggle, you know, not that we don't have conflict, but like overall, the overarching feel for our lives is spacious, is open, is fun, is about enjoying each other, doing what we love, you know, cooking good food together, watching shows together. Nothing's off limits, nothing's bad. Like talking about those power struggles earlier, I can't imagine living like 18 years with my child in my house, like having those power struggles constantly over different things as they got older. Like, you know, my oldest will say to me, well, I don't know what we'd fight about, Mom. We just, as she knows the stereotypes of teenagers fighting about things, and she'll be a teen here in a few months. It's like, well, it's so nice to do that, and my middle child will say to me, well, if I ever have kids, I want to parent the way you do, Mom, It's just nice to feel so, just have this nice dialogue with them for who we are together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so precious. So, and like I say, that's the priority. Like, if anything else, I don't know what it would come in the way of that. I just would find a way back to that open connection, no matter what, if I was able.
Just being together. I love that so much. Coming back to that open connection with them, no matter what. Living with children truly doesn't need to be fraught with conflict and power struggles. And our last clip is from Talia Bartow. Talia's family lives in Ohio in the U.S., and they have 4 children, ages 9, 6, 3, and 1 when we spoke. So what is your favorite thing about the flow of your unschooling days right now? What's the favorite thing?
I really had to think about this one because I'm like, I just really love our life. I really love our lifestyle. I love how it's changed. I have kids with 4 different ages. I've gone through all these different stages, and my oldest is always, entering the next stage for the first time. And then I get to look at the next ones and go, oh, you're going to enter these stages too. If we're going through a hard season, I can go, oh, we did this. I know that this, my 3-year-old, he's so busy, and sometimes I'm exhausted. I'm like, you won't always be that, And so it's so fun to watch them and to develop these relationships. I get to spend so much time with them. So we have inside jokes, stuff that's ours because we're spending time together and we're watching shows together and we're playing games together. So we develop this connection and this relationship where there's things that are ours, or we see something and we're like, oh, wait, doesn't that remind you of this? And it's like our story. And it's our thing, or we have our favorite foods that we get to make together. We just develop this level of connection that I knew was possible with adults and friendships. I have a good relationship with my mom now, but I never knew it was possible to have that when the kids were young. It isn't something you have to wait for. They don't have to get to a certain age and then you go, okay, now we can do that together. You can learn it now. They're amazing people who they are right now. They're amazing. And they make great people to do life with. And so it's so fun. It's so fun to have all these special moments that we would be missing out on if they were in school. And I can't imagine living a life where I didn't see them do these things for the first time. It's literally the best thing in the world to spend time with my kids. I love them so much. I never knew that our life could feel this way outside of the box. The box was comforting and this was scary, but this is the best. Amazing. My son says scary but fun when he does something new. And I said it is scary sometimes, but it's so fun and rewarding. And I'm excited to see what happens next.
What a great way to wrap up this episode. I'm excited to see what happens next. Our kids make great people to do life with. And unschooling is definitely scary, but totally fun. I love how the guests touched on so many different aspects of our lives, yet at the same time, we see similar threads weaving through so many of their answers, like the gift of time to be, to get to really know and connect with our children, and to live in the flow and joy of our days. I hope you found this collection of guests' favorite things about unschooling to be both grounding and inspiring. Until next time, happy unschooling! I hope you found this episode helpful on your unschooling journey. And be sure to check out the wonderful archive of earlier podcast episodes. The conversations never go out of date. And you can find more information about my books, my Patreon community, and the Childhood Redefined Unschooling Summit at my website, livingjoyfully.ca. Have a great day.